Good evening. I'm Suzanne Diggs-Wilborn, and I'm the Vice President for College Success at Achieve Atlanta. Welcome to tonight's session on supporting mental health. Nationally, mental health has seen, or college students have seen an alarming increase in behavioral health distress, mostly among the American population in general, but also among college students specifically. We have actually seen this same pattern mirrored in our scholars and their families. This session tonight is just one of several outreach efforts we are continuing to make to encourage our scholars and families to take advantage of the student assistance program that Achieve Atlanta provides. Through the McLaughlin Young Group, we provide up to 6 sessions for scholars and their family members who are seeking this type of support. As I transition to my introduction of our featured speaker tonight, Dr. Shedrick, who is she's a participating therapist with the McLaughlin Young Group, I will reiterate the points of the disclaimer that previously rolled on your screen. This session is being held in a webinar format so that only presenters will be visible on the screen. As a participant, you will not appear on the screen to preserve your anonymity. To maintain confidentiality, when submitting your questions, you have the choice of changing your participant name and/or checking the Ask Anonymously box next to your question before submitting. I will now introduce our featured speaker for tonight. Dr. Victoria Shedrick, who is affectionately known by her clients as Dr. V, is a licensed professional counselor and owner of Key Counseling, Coaching, and Consulting, a private counseling practice in Columbia, South Carolina. She specializes in women's mental health, trauma therapy, and faith-based counseling. She has over 16 years of experience working as a counselor and mental health professional in school, clinical, and community settings. She has a master's degree in school counseling, educational specialist degree in counselor education, and a doctorate degree in counseling psychology. Dr. V is licensed in South Carolina and Georgia and has certifications as a national certified counselor, clinical trauma professional, and is trained in EMDR therapy. She has extensive experience working with individuals with a past history of trauma, and having served as a therapist for children and youth in foster care, and as a director of social services at a group home. Dr. V is most passionate about working with women of color to help them achieve healing from childhood trauma, toxic relationships, and racial trauma experienced in the workplace. Aside from running her own counseling practice, Dr. V is also an adjunct professor who teaches graduate students in clinical mental health counseling programs. Please welcome Dr. V.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you can hear and see me okay. I want to take the time to first start by thanking Achieve Atlanta for inviting me to speak with you all this evening. And I'm also glad to be able to speak at a time that we're experiencing right now. I feel like this is a timely presentation. It's a short presentation. We've only got a few minutes that we're going to be spending together this evening, but my hope is that this presentation, I want to accomplish 3 things. The first is that the takeaway will be that you know that it's okay to seek help. That's number 1. The second thing I hope to accomplish with this evening's presentation is that you'll know where to seek help if you need it. And then the third thing I hope to accomplish is that you'll be willing to share this information. And we've got a good number that have joined us this evening. So I'm grateful for those of you taking time out of your very, very busy schedules to join. But I know there's someone that was not able to join. Maybe they were working or taking classes or what have you. So share the information with one of your peers that is in the program, Achieve Atlanta, and even also share it with your family, because what you'll learn is that these services not only are for you, but they're also for members of your household and family members. So I hope that you'll pass it on. So with that being said, let's start our presentation. I'm a presenter that loves to have a good deal of interaction. And so, I like to pose questions to my audience. And so what I'd like for you to think about as we start talking about mental health services and help, I want you to identify, what do you feel are some of the barriers that stand in the way of college students seeking help for themselves? And if you would like to use it, comment in the chat. I'll be checking. But what do you feel are some of those barriers that stand in the way of college students seeking help? There was a study that was done by the Journal of American College Health, and they asked that same question to college students. What's keeping you from seeking help? What are the barriers? And 66% of college students said that they didn't feel they needed it. And, I think that, says a lot. A huge percentage of people feeling like, you know what, I'm doing okay. I have my own way of coping. I don't think I necessarily need this. And so, I want us to get to a place where we can certainly normalize seeking help. And what you'll find from this presentation is that you don't necessarily have to have a mental illness to seek counseling. Counseling services are there for you for even common everyday stressors that we all experience. Almost 27% of college students said they didn't have the time. They say, I don't have the time to seek help. I don't, you guys are doing all the things. You guys are taking classes. Some of you are working, maybe even working multiple jobs, but there's just not enough time. You feel like I don't have the time. And that's something I hope that we can talk through, and that you can learn that we can shift that perspective so that you can make time for yourselves. 18% of college students say, you know what? I just prefer coping in my own way. I don't want to seek help because I've got my own coping strategies in play. And then 12% said it was because of the stigma. And we know that in our country, unfortunately, there still is a stigma. But since the pandemic, I really feel like it's becoming more and more normalized to seek help. And because we know that it is a source of strength in asking for help, number one, and it's a source of support, having that person that you can talk to and just vent and let it out, and let go and release a lot of what you may be carrying with you. It is extremely beneficial. And we're going to talk through some of that as we go through the presentation. And so let's get into it. Let's talk about what VASP is. What it is a student assisted program. This is something that is offered to you all free of charge. There's no cost, no copay. You don't have to worry about having insurance. If you don't have insurance, you get these sessions without any cost of financial obligation at all. It's confidential, meaning it's private. The sessions are private. Your information that will be collected, whether it's records or documentation, is private and will not be shared with anyone. It also covers students and household family members. So I think that's an awesome benefit, not only knowing that you can use this service, but members of your family. If you have a mom or dad or someone that's struggling right now, or a sibling, even someone in your household that needs this service, they'll be able to use it. You'll have access 24/7, 365 days a year, being able to contact and seek and set appointments up for yourself. Services are offered virtually. Obviously, we're still in the pandemic. So if you're not comfortable with face-to-face, there are a lot of providers that are offering virtual sessions and even phone sessions. And that just makes it more convenient. If you're in your dorm room, you can go ahead and set up an appointment right where you are. I've had a number of, car sessions. That seems to be the thing right now, or outside walking, I've done a number of sessions, I meet clients wherever they are. And so it just makes things much more convenient. And then also you get to connect with local providers. You will be able to find someone in your area that is an SAP therapist, counselor. And also what's included is referrals to other resources if it's needed. And I want to make sure that we make the distinction between counseling services and psychiatric services, because there may be the assumption that, okay, this person is going to put me on medication. A licensed professional counselor is just that, someone that you talk to about your issues. They do talk therapy and they can talk through, doesn't have to involve medication. But if that is something that is explored and is needed, then you'll receive a referral to meet with a psychiatrist or some other professional that can assist you with that if needed. Here's some reasons that you want to take advantage of the SAP. And you want to take advantage of the SAP. And what I hope you will see in looking at these bullet points is that all of these situations are common stressors, things that we all can see someone for, whether that's anxiety and stress issues. And I think that probably is primarily the number one reason that individuals are seeking mental health attention right now, is to deal with anxiety. And there are people who didn't even know they had anxiety issues until the pandemic. And it makes sense. We've been inundated with a lot of news and a lot of things concerning COVID-19. We've, had to deal with racial trauma and social injustice and so many things. And then on top of that, you're a college student. You're trying to graduate. You're trying to get your credits. You're trying to pass your classes. You're trying to keep your financial aid. You're trying to keep your scholarship. So there's a host of issues here at play that may be causing stress and anxiety. And you know what? Rightfully so. I think that we've got to understand that it's okay if we are experiencing stress and anxiety right now. Be okay, be okay with that, but know that there is help and that you can seek it for yourself. Next is family problems. This pandemic has caused, even conflicts within the family, and not just conflicts, but also stressors that, financial stressors, whether that's loss of work, being laid off from a job, even losing loved ones, all of these things. The pandemic has created a lot of changes in our families that we've had to adjust to, and that has been difficult. Parenting is something that you might seek help for. I acknowledge you guys are college students, but some of you may also be parents. And I know that's tricky. That's like another thing on the plate now, in addition to having to worry about all the stresses that come with being a college student and in this pandemic, but also having to be a parent and have concerns for the welfare and the safety of your own children and trying to manage and balance it all. That is absolutely a reason to seek help. Resiliency and coping skills, learning how to cope during this stressful time. And that's the thing, therapy teaches you skills. Oftentimes we feel like, therapy is needed when there's a problem. It doesn't indicate there's a problem with you, but we can always learn and we can always grow. And so take advantage of that. Think about how you can grow. And this is a good time in your life to develop some coping skills. And if anything, I feel like this pandemic is teaching us all to be more resilient and making us so much stronger in the process. But add some tools to the toolbox. And then there's balancing school, work, and family, all of the things. And you probably are feeling like, there's just not enough time in the day to devote to all the things that I have to do. How do I balance that? How do I manage? Out there, talking to a counselor, using this SAP service can help you with that. That's that's a very common issue, particularly now. How do we balance it all? Then there's relationship issues, whether that's family relationships, a significant relationship that you're in, romantic relationships. So talking through, learning how to communicate, again, learning skills. How do I communicate? How can I improve my communication skills? How can I be a better person? How can I, learn how to, not necessarily love others, but love myself in the right way? And so depression, this is something that is, we are seeing more and more of in right now during this pandemic, people feeling depressed because here's the thing, we don't have the outlets that we normally have. We don't have, we're not able to travel like we would like to in a safe way. And a lot of us are feeling lonely right now. We're not having those social connections. We're not connecting with our family the way we would like to. And so that can cause us to feel a bit depressed. And again, rightfully so. Alcohol, drug use, abuse. There are specialized counselors there are counselors that you can seek that are part of the SAP, that if you are in need of services, maybe you've turned to, some negative coping strategies and really needing to learn other ways to cope, and even learning how to, break addiction. That's a very common thing, especially now. I think there's a lot of statistics are showing that there's been an increase in drug and alcohol use throughout the pandemic. So it's acknowledging that and doing something about it for yourself. Grief and loss, another thing. There are counselors that specialize in grief counseling and can help you go through the stages of grief to achieve some acceptance. And I know that that's something we're seeing a lot of right now. This pandemic, we've lost a lot of people. There were a lot of empty chairs around the dinner table. There were a lot of people were missing right now during the holidays that we just went through. And so talking through that. Goal setting and keeping, and this is really good for college students because we all know that, you have goals, you're working on something, you've got a plan, and you want to best execute that. And so talking to a counselor can help you with that, and it can help you and hold you accountable for whatever those goals are you have for yourself. And then there's crisis events, which honestly, this is what we're in. The pandemic has been a crisis event, or maybe there's a personal crisis in your life, or if something happens at your school that is traumatizing and you need to talk through that, you can also use the service. And then lastly, preventative and proactive. And that's what I love about counseling. You don't have to wait till something happens. You don't have to wait to show signs or symptoms. You can be proactive and say, you know what, I think it just would be good to talk to someone based on everything that's going on. I may be coping okay, but I can always cope better. And you'll be amazed at how good that is. And you're just looking forward to talking with that person and having that safe space where you can release and let go. And so these are some reasons to use your SAP. We're going to now look at how does it work. So here's how it works. There's the initial phone call that you'll make to the SAP. Now, if you're a minor under the age of 18, you'll need parental consent, but my assumption is that most of you are 18 or older. And so you don't need your parents' consent. You can just make the call. Once you make that call, then you'll be matched to a therapist in the area. You'll meet with that counselor for what's called an assessment. That's that first session. Sometimes maybe even it takes 2 sessions to fully assess what your needs are, but we can typically get it done in 1 session. In that session is honestly an opportunity to learn about you, what you have going on, get the story, get the background, and also give you an opportunity to ask questions and make sure that you feel this is the right provider for you. And I get that question a lot. Well, is it okay for me to change therapists? I just, had my first session with a therapist. I don't think it's a good fit. What should I do? You can absolutely request another counselor. It's really important that you feel that that is a safe place for you and that there's a connection. And I tell clients all the time, or potential clients, looking for a therapist, the right therapist is a lot like dating. You go out on that first date and you're like, you know what, the vibe just isn't here. I don't think this is a good fit. It's not a match. And that's okay. So looking until you can get the right person that's going to be able to provide the services that you need is important. And then next, you want to, in those sessions, if it's the right fit, you and your counselor will develop a plan. And this is to address short-term therapy because you have such a limited number of sessions. So we're going to be, you guys are going to be working the plan and identifying those goals and measurable goals so that you can see some progress. If it's to improve your mood, if it's to help you cope with learning some coping skills, whatever it is, but you will be a part of that process. You are in the driver's seat, honestly. And that's the thing you need to know. It's an empowering thing to reach out and seek help. And you are very much a part of the process when you're in counseling with a therapist. And then lastly, if it's needed, based on the detailed assessment, then that counselor the SAP counselor may or may not refer you to other resources. Again, if it's not a good fit, you may be referred to another counselor if they feel that they're not the best person to help you. So you've got options there. What is the cost? Again, no cost at all. This is absolutely free. And I know you hear free and you think, but is it really? Absolutely, it is free. And Achieve Atlanta, they've partnered with NYG for these sessions. You guys get up to 6 SAP counseling sessions. And I'll be honest, therapy can be expensive, especially if you do not have insurance. You can be paying upwards to, 100 to, almost $200, depending on what area you live, for just one session. So this is an awesome benefit for you guys. You get 6 sessions for an unlimited number of separate issues per year. Here's what that means. Let's say you've got, unfortunately, let's say there's a loss in your family. You want to address that in 6 sessions. But then later on, you're approaching graduation and now you're experiencing some anxiety. That's a separate issue. That gets you 6 additional sessions for that issue. And then lastly, any costs incurred through a referral to other resources for long-term care, that would be your responsibility. The SAP is going to cover the counseling sessions, but let's say, for instance, it's recommended, that you need medication or you would like to be placed on medication and you need a referral to a psychiatrist or some other professional to work with you, then that would be something that would not be covered. So let's talk about confidentiality, because I know that sometimes there's a concern about who has access to my information. Is this private? Is this secure? So this is where we're going to pause for a moment to just talk about that, let you know and reassure you that the only person who will know that you are getting this service will be you and your SAP counselor. So no one else is going to know your participation in services. No one else will have access to your personal information. All of that will be secure. And a lot of therapists now are using telehealth. They're doing virtual counseling because of the pandemic. And most of them are using platforms that are HIPAA compliant to make sure that there's safeguards and it's secure. So that when you're in a session, it's just you and that person, and information is not being shared. No one's going to know about your business. Nobody's going to know but you that you're using this service unless you elect to share that with someone. There are exceptions to confidentiality in counseling. This is something your SAP counselor is going to speak to in that first session. But if you were having thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself or other people, or if there's an instance that is shared where there's abuse or neglect of a child or an elderly person, then that would be a reason where we would have to break confidentiality just to ensure safety. And so it is not only confidential, but the services are accessible. Got telephonic access, daytime and evening appointments. So this can work for you in the best possible way. We know that you guys are busy. Many of you, I said, you're taking a full load, maybe working, and you have other responsibilities. So you've got counselors that can work around your schedule. SAP appointments are available within 3 to 5 business days. And let me stress this, because I know as a therapist myself, my practice may get full. But being that I do contract with EAP and SAP, I know that I have to give those clients a session. I have to make sure they get on my schedule because that's the contract that I have. So you guys get priority over individuals that do not have this service, that are, maybe went on Google and found a therapist and are trying to make an appointment. There may be a waiting list because there's such a huge need right now. Most clinicians and therapists are actually booked, and it's hard to even get an appointment. You may be waiting until April. So this is the benefit that you guys have, is that you'll be able to get scheduled right away, being that you are an SAP client. And so there is the number. Make sure you write it down. And there are posters and brochures that we can certainly get to you, but make sure you know and you take down this information so that you can call and ask questions and, make sure this will be something you would like to take advantage of. And I hope that you will. So kind of to sum up here, What does the SAP offer? The in-the-moment telephonic support, confidential short-term counseling based on a session model via virtual, phone, or face-to-face session, whatever your preference is. And that's the thing. Some clients may not be appropriate for telehealth. And so that you let them know if that's something you're not comfortable with, or if you would prefer virtual sessions as opposed to being in person. Make them aware of that when you call so that they can find you a counselor that is offering the best situation for you. And then you get the unlimited number of issues per year. And keep in mind again that this is not just for you, but this is for members of your family as well. And so, closing thoughts here. This is closing thought. It says, don't be shy about asking for help. Doesn't mean you're weak. It only means that you are wise. And so we get in our own way, right? And we will talk ourselves out of doing the thing that we know we need to do for ourselves. So I want to encourage you guys. I think it shows strength and it shows courage to be able to not only acknowledge what you need, but to be willing to do something about it. And I tell my clients all the time, you have done an amazing thing by reaching out and scheduling this appointment. And let me say this, that's the hardest part. The hardest part is scheduling making the call. But once you get in that space with that counselor, you will not regret it. It is my hope that it is a good fit for you, but it's something typically people don't regret. And they say, my gosh, I wish I would have done this sooner. Man, this was easier than I thought. That's usually what most clients say at the end of their first session. They say, I just regret I didn't do it sooner. And so do what's best for you. Don't be concerned of what others think. Don't be concerned about what others want for you. This is about you and taking care of your mental health. And we have absolutely got to be intentional about doing so during this particular time. I know that many of you have sent some questions. I'm going to go to the chat right now just to see if there is anything there for me that I need to address.
Yes, and thank you so much, Dr. Shedrick. My name is Beth Vandiver, and I'm with the Achieve Atlanta team. And we are so thankful to have scholars and parents and family members joining this webinar tonight. And Dr. Shedrick, thank you so much just for sharing all of that knowledge, not only about mental health and behavioral health, but also about this student assistance program that we have available for scholars. And we do have some questions that parents and family members and scholars submitted. So we want to answer a couple of those. And if people can stay on just to hear those responses, I know we're a little bit over, but we'll get as many answered as possible. And before we do that, we have a quick poll just to poll the room and see how people are doing today. So we're going to put up the first question, and it's really just to describe your mood for the day. So if your mood were like the weather, what would it be today? And you can select one of those and just let us know how you're doing today. And you have about 15 seconds left to respond. It's great. We're getting some responses coming in, some cloudy, calm and clear.
Good. Calm and clear. Yeah.
That's great. And we'll close out this poll just so people can see.
Okay. I thank you guys for doing that. Let me know where you are and how you're doing. For those of you who had a sunny day, I'm glad. Calm and clear, that's not bad. And if you're feeling cloudy, I hope that things can turn around for you this evening. Thank you again for joining me. I didn't realize what time it was, but I do want to.
Okay, we have one more poll question, and then we're going to read out a couple of questions from people. So Laura, you can put up the second poll question about how do you practice self-care? So you're just sharing your favorite self-care activity. We have a couple of options. If any of these are ways that you practice self-care, you can select them. We have some responses coming in, just in terms of getting creative, exercise, listening to music, watching movies. And that's great. Thank you guys for responding to those poll questions.
Love it. You guys are an active group. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Exercise and yoga. Awesome. And that's one of my favorite ways to cope as well. So couple questions here. One of the questions was the feeling of loneliness and how to overcome it. I want to speak to that. First, just acknowledging that you're lonely, I think is a good thing. We got to own our feelings right now. We also got to be intentional about making those connections and maintaining our relationships. I know we're social distancing. We're probably not going out a whole lot, but scheduling family time, even if it's on Zoom, even if it's on FaceTime, but getting the family together and you guys connecting, even with your friends, setting something up, putting it on the schedule, and trying to stay busy and active, and even learning how to enjoy your own company at times. And by tapping into yourself, exploring some new interests might also be something you want to look into when it comes to warding off those feelings of loneliness. The next question was, how do I stay engaged with the outside world and remain safe without social media? Again, maintaining those relationships, engaging with friends and family, and getting creative, going outdoors, doing a picnic, doing things that are safe for you to do. If it's something outdoors and something you're comfortable with, we've got to be willing to open our minds a bit and try some new things. Next question I have, I believe, is from a parent. How does a person redirect their thoughts when they think about the pandemic and the sadness associated with it? And so acknowledging your feelings, accepting what is beyond your control, and then focusing on what is. Identify what's within my control right now. We can't control the pandemic. We can't control what's happening in politics and the news and the media. We can't control any of those things, but identify what is within your control and try to focus on those things. Next question was from a parent. As a parent of a second-year college student who's home due to COVID, how do I help encourage her to take a mental break? Some of you are probably working a lot right now. You got to take breaks. You got to set some boundaries, even with yourself. Schedule the breaks. Put it on your phone. Use an app if you need to. The reminder will pop up saying, hey, it's time to take a break, or a notification on your laptop, it's time to take a break. And even scheduling lunch with friends, even if it's via Zoom, like, hey, FaceTime, let's eat lunch together. Make yourself take those breaks. How should a student address racism that they are experiencing in school was another question that I received. And that's twofold. One thing is to make sure you address it with those at the university. If it's a situation where a professor or an employee of the university, college is, you're experiencing racism, you want to, I'm sure at your college there's a proper way of filing a grievance if needed. But start with someone talking to your advisor, or if there's a close trusted professor or someone that that you can talk to so that they can point you in the right direction. And then, of course, you gotta, talk it out, vent your frustrations, turn to your support system, and let people know what's going on with you. Don't keep that in. Next question, how do you get them, and this is from a parent, I believe, getting kids to attend online classes, wanted to do anything other than video games. I encourage positive reinforcement. And here's the thing, we're in front of our devices a lot right now. And so having to sit for homeschool instruction, that's an awful lot for a kid, and they do need breaks. So scheduling the breaks, giving in a little bit, but making them earn that. When you do a little work, then you'll get the privilege of playing the video game. Another question from a parent is, how should I handle the isolation and lack of being able to socialize? Getting active and exploring new interests, art, music, getting outside, doing yoga. Tap into yourself. Think about, what, if I had the time, what would I want what's something I've always wanted to do? Well, now this may be the time to do it, and where you can invest in yourself. Last parent question was, what is the best way for families to cope with stress while the child is away to college? Again, focusing on what's within your control, continuing to communicate, keeping that communication open, and then turning to your support system and making sure that you are, talking to people, and then seeking help if you need it. I did get a lot of questions concerning coping with stress and school stress specifically. And here's what I say to that. You got to manage your expectations right now. This is a hard time. We've got a lot of things going on, and we have got to manage our expectations of ourselves and others. We got to be intentional about our time and make sure we're using it in the most productive way. We're using it wisely. We're not putting things on our plate that we don't need, you know? Maybe, we can't expect ourselves to function here. Before the pandemic, hey, you know what? I was the one that overloaded myself. I did this, and this. Well, we got to be realistic right now, and we have to do what's best for us. And that may mean even setting boundaries and saying no, even to the things that you normally would say yes to. Be very selective about what you put on your plate, and intentional about warding off stress and not putting unnecessary stress upon yourself. Also, you want to communicate. You want to communicate your needs and wants. Let your teachers, let your professors know what's going on with you. Sometimes we're stressed because we need support, and we don't have the support because we haven't asked for it. So ask for help. If you need an extension, if you need a little bit more time to get something done, let your professors know what's going on. Sometimes we got to be a little transparent. And we're private. I understand if you are a private person, but you'll be amazed at how many people are willing to help you or give you an extension and work with you if you just let them know what's going on. So communicate what you need and what you want. And then lastly, coping with stress of school is disconnecting. I know that, it's important to take care of the things you must do, but there's got to be an end in sight. Having a routine where you disconnect from work, giving yourself some time where you're not engaged in school studies is absolutely essential. I just see another question. It says, how do you convince your child to get therapy? Thank you for that question. I think just being honest and talking to them, letting them know that it's okay. Letting them know that you're willing to help them find a provider, that you'll walk alongside them, that there's no shame in doing that, presenting them the options and supporting them along the way. So, just being honest and being there, I think says a lot. I know that this is a hard time, and it's hard to try to bring up even therapy to someone because you don't want to offend them, but just letting them know that it's okay to talk to someone and letting them know that, you have to do what's best for you and encouraging that. Are there any other questions let's see.
I think that you covered all of them, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But again, thank you so much, Dr. Shedrick, and thank you to all of our scholars and our Achieve Atlanta families who've joined us tonight. We're so thankful for all of you, and we are here to support you, and we are proud to have this program in place to support our scholars and your families, because we know that family support is critical for your college success. And just remember that all of this information about how to access these sessions is available on our website, and that's achieveatlanta.org/mental health. And that's also in the chat. So feel free to go ahead and visit that site tonight. You can call the phone number that's on that site as well to access the free mental health services that we've discussed tonight. We hope that you'll continue to follow us on social media and stay informed of what we have going on. And thank you again, Dr. Shedrick, for everything that you're doing to support our students.
Not a problem. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, and I hope everyone stays safe and well.